This video is powered by patrons. See the link in the description and learn how you can support videos like this. After the dust had settled, after the leaks had been plugged, the bugs squashed, life returned to normal at Abstergo Entertainment. There was time to make up. Work to do for the Animus analysts populating cubicles dedicated to finding stories to tell their hungry consumers. A market they created, offering the world a chance to relive interesting lives throughout the ages. They had seen the life of Adewale, Edward Kenway, and right at this moment, a researcher was plugged into the Animus looking to record another of those interesting lives. One the world had seen already. One they already knew and loved and would profit from knowing more. The life of the pirate turned assassin Adewale. "14 years after relinquishing his role as quartermaster on the Jackdaw, Adewale was captain of the Victoire, an assassin ship sailing off the coast of Domingue. His sights were set. In his former pirate life, his prize would have been plunder. But his work these days is of a higher purpose.
The parcel is with the Templar Admiral on the lead ship, Captain.
The parcel itself is less interesting than its intended recipient.
Adewale's role now was to stop the Templars, uncover their plots, stifle their hierarchy, and promote freedom where he could. Goodness knows these lands and waters need it. The parcel is headed somewhere in Hispaniola, to unknown Templars. The assassins yearn to uncover where. They need to stop and board these ships.
When I became an assassin, I swore to leave piracy behind. But the old methods have served the creed more than once.
Everything is permitted after all, Captain. Fire!
The Templar Admiral slain, Adewale moves past the piles of coin to the real prize, this parcel. The hope is that the intended recipient would reveal a new Templar web of control in the West Indies. The parcel is addressed to
Bastienne, Joseph, Port-au-Prince. What business do Templars have there?
Captain! More French vessels at our tail!
The assassins had a lead, but the Templar ships were closing in.
Too many! We'll retreat through the storm!
Just as Adewale had escaped from the Spanish 20 years ago, this assassin ship looks to do so now, to use the storm as a weapon against the dominant Templar fleet. But this time, that weapon would turn on him too. The Victoire and her crew are lost, but the shore of Port-au-Prince would find Adewale. Shipless, crewless, weaponless, but still laden with purpose. To find the name on this parcel, a woman, Bastienne, Joseph. I'm the Patient Wolf, and I'm a video game storyteller. I'm currently travelling through the world of Assassin's Creed, retelling its stories for you. This is the 8th instalment in the series, and if you would like to catch the next one, Assassin's Creed Rogue, straight after this video, head over to Patreon, where patrons support this work, watch ad-free and months in advance. If you would like to be part of continuing this series, click the link above or in the description. Down in that description is linked all the other videos in the series, so pick your favourite to watch after this. Subscribe, notify yourself of when AC Rogue releases on YouTube, and before you go, hit like for the algorithm. Go on, do it now. And then, settle in, zone out of the world. I'm the Patient Wolf, and this is the story of Assassin's Creed, Freedom Cry. Domingue, 1735. A French-controlled colony for nearly 40 years. Over those years, it has become the richest colony in the West Indies. It supplies Europe with the sugar cane to satisfy its sweet tooth, and receives piles of money for its troubles. But that trouble is passed on to others. Because the reason it is so profitable is that Domingue is a slave-based society.
Just look at that bone structure. Perfect for any kind of work.
The triangle trade of bringing slaves from Africa to the colonies is ceaseless. African slaves outnumber the rest of the population, yet they are kept in line under the most brutal conditions, far harsher than the Code Noir was meant to prohibit. The Code Noir, the rules put in place on how to treat an enslaved human being, was hardly recognised here, let alone enforced. The European plantation owners, often living in absentia, have employed overseers and given them a mandate to use any methods possible to keep the machine running at full steam. Before Adewale can come to from his ordeal, he witnesses the lengths the overseers will go to control.
Sale truie! No! Ça te coûtera une oreille!
The Templar can wait. This woman must not suffer.
This woman has made her bid for freedom and nearly succumbed to it. Now saved, she will do what most need to do when they free themselves from the shackles that bind.
Do you have a place of refuge?
My family waits in the mountains.
Les Montagnes Noires, the home of the Maroon. Escaped slaves from all over the world who sought safety away from the greed of the European West. Communities were formed, protected by geography, accepting of fugitives in need. Despite the hopelessness, a hope was rising from these mountains. A hope for the next 2 years Adewale would come to commit himself. Ade would come to help the Maroon resistance movement. Before this fugitive departs, she sets Adewale on his path.
I'm looking for Bastienne Joseph. Do you know her?
Any fine gentleman may lead you to her.
What was a fine gentleman to do with their time and money when others toiled in their stead? This man would lead him there.
I'm on my way there now to present her with a gift.
The girls of the Dame en Rose had that effect on the men of the island, the most eminent brothel in Port-au-Prince, because it is run meticulously by Bastienne Joseph. Adewale using what he has learnt from the assassins to listen in to her conversation.
You think me a traitor?
Slaves will be safer for it.
Monsieur Gouverneur, they felt safe at the plantation. Do you think they would rebel?
Of course. It's their animal nature. Violence is the only currency that motivates them. Like coin to you.
I will deliver your message.
This is Gouverneur Pierre Marquis de Fayet, Governor of Domingue since 3 years. He has presided over the greatest surge in production and profit for the region since its inception, and in turn, the slaves to achieve it. It would turn out, though, despite fitting the mould, he is not aligned with the Templar order. Is Bastienne Joseph a Templar? Why would a free black woman truck with such a man? Adewale wastes no time in finding out.
Madame Joseph, expecting a package.
It, but not you.
Tell me, how do the Templars allow you to carry on like this?
I am only the messenger.
This woman has guile, cunning, gravitas, and a command of her surroundings and the people within it, but she is not a Templar. Bastienne Joseph has slowly built an extensive network of intelligence throughout the region, from masters to slave and everyone in between. She hears the whispers, knows the movements, and is paid handsomely for those connections. Her brothel does a roaring trade, but information pays just as well.
But before you judge, the Templars coin like any will buy the freedom of men like you.
Bastienne did what she could for the slaves of Domingue. Money from people like the governor was directed to help them. The Templars would here employ Bastienne to deliver this parcel. To get that coin, she would need to fulfill her task. Ade hears the words of her intentions, but must witness for himself them in action before he accepts her story.
Prove that what you promise is true, and perhaps something can be arranged.
Very well. Then you will do me a favor.
Adewale is to pass on the message from the governor to the Maroon resistance leader, Augustin Dieufort.
He's a very secretive man. Repeat this password. Silly batutu krabla va manger.
Silly pas dodo, crabla va manger.
The wise man is down that path.
Thank you, sister.
The Maroons have been doing what they can to help the slaves, attacking the owners, plantations, freeing who they could. As long as there has been slavery, there has been rebellion, and the overseers knew how to deal with most of it. But for the overseers, the Maroons are becoming problematic. Within the letter from the governor are conditions outlined for a peace with a greater threat underlying that. Continue this trouble, and it shall be returned tenfold to those left in chains. But the governor is not a man of his word. The truce broken before it can begin. Here, his overseers have found the Maroon hideout and are killing without mercy. Augustin Dieufort is captured. When Adewale washed up on these shores, he did so without weapons. He picked up a machete. He now takes a blunderbuss. These weapons will help him in a tight spot against these hired thugs. Augustin Dieufort, the Maroon leader, is free to continue his difficult plight.
Bastienne helps as she can, but Maroon independence is long to build. A warrior like you would be a great asset to our cause.
With due respect, I serve a different brotherhood and am honor-bound to return as soon as I find the means.
His means sank off the coast, but he had time before he could source another. He could help.
I suppose I might lend a hand for a time. What do you need?
Recruits, liberated slaves. The warriors among them join me. The others grow the community for which we fight. Best begin soon. There's much to do.
As Ade carried out this work, he would realise that the group he was honour-bound to return to would be aligned with such a cause, to free the enslaved and halt oppression despite there being no obvious Templar involvement. To Ade, more than most assassins, this particular work spoke to his past, and he cared deeply for its future. The Maroons are glad of the new recruits. Adewale has done more for them than Augustin could possibly hope, but he hopes for more. At the prospect of galvanising his continued support, he presents Adewale a dilemma. A plan to steal a brigantine, for Adewale to sail once more, but to what end?
Every day, more slaves arrive. With the right vessel, you could intercept the slave ships before they arrive. Or you would be free to leave. I cannot choose for you.
Adewale has everything he needs to leave. And in regard to his original purpose as an assassin, nothing he need stay for. The Templars don't seem to be prevalent here. In Domingue at least. He is content that Bastienne's intentions are not malevolent. But there is a calling here for Adewale. He can help this land and the people that were brought here against their will. Augustin joins Adewale at the helm of their new ship, the Experto Crede, the name meaning to trust in one experienced. That is what Augustin is doing here.
But when you are gone, who will captain this ship? You must teach me.
Aye, I will.
Now the cause has a ship. They can head off the slave ships before they reach the shore and divert them to the mountain communities, or more numbers for the fight. The Maroon learn much with Ade at the helm, and they free many on the seas. Adewale has spent his whole adult life at sea, but it was his experience with the jackdaw that made him assess that life.
But when I sailed with Kenway, plunder was the only prize. When the assassins offered me the opportunity to pursue more serious aims, I left the plundering behind.
And it was Adewale's example that helped Edward see the light for himself.
To fight beside a man so driven by personal gain and glory is a hard thing, Edward. And I have come to feel the assassins and their creed a more honorable cause. I would not trade my years as a pirate for anything. They hardened me for the work we do today.
Like Ade, Edward would leave the pirate life and further the assassin cause back in England. the jackdaw was donated for use by Adewale's assassins.
Legends tell that she sunk somewhere off the coast of Hispaniola, but none know just where.
In between attack on slave ships, whilst also finding the resources and coin to support their work, they would find the final resting place of the jackdaw. The former quartermaster, in a surge of nostalgia, would replace the figurehead of the Experto Crede to honour the time he had with her. That story is linked down in the description. After months of work, the Experto Crede returned to Port-au-Prince and Adewale returned to Bastienne.
I do not know how much longer I'll be able to continue, but the Maroons are outstanding warriors.
I believe you owe me a parcel then.
Let me hold it a while longer, for safekeeping.
How little you must think of me.
On the contrary, I respect you highly, but would be a fool to trust anyone so clever so soon.
In lieu of that trust, Bastienne has a task for Adewale. He's not going anywhere yet.
I need a careful and observant man to investigate the gouverneur. I must know what distracts him. The lives of the slaves depend on it. You will need a disguise. Please, change into these.
The governor, true to his word, has been cracking down on the enslaved people of the island with a firmer hand. The terms of the Code Noir, such as resting on Sundays, not striking to wound, raping, splitting up families, were all violated by his overseers with ever-increasing frequency. Governor Fayet paying back the Maroons for their disruption in the only way he knew how. Any information on him and his next move will be valuable to the cause. The governor arranges a party
to celebrate the success of the city guard over the past year. Donations will be collected to help fund the city watch for the upcoming year.
Ade infiltrates his mansion as he organises his soiree.
Back to work. The grounds must be fit for a king when my guests arrive.
Adewale would spend the rest of the day as a slave, a role he had not served since he was 16. He would toil and experience the oppression firsthand once more. And when exhaustion was almost unbearable, they would catch the little sleep they were allowed in the cramped shelters provided. Adewale took this moment to find out more about the governor.
But the science of navigation is expensive. Your name will go down in history with mine if you supply the funds and the ship.
The man's name speaking to the governor is Louis Godin, and he is the leader of the Geodesic Expedition, a joint venture by the Spanish and French to measure the circumference of the Earth. Their funds were low and the project needed investment. This knowledge would vastly improve nautical navigation and combat and give these tenuous allies a boost against the Queen's navy and ensure the safe arrival of more slave ships. Adewale's quest has not turned up Templars or objects of ancient power. But if the assassins can glean this knowledge from the scientists, then the assassins and Maroons could also boost their efficacy on the waves and track down and apprehend more slave ships faster. Ade tells Bastienne of the expedition.
Why is this the first time I hear of him?
How many more could be freed with this knowledge in our hands?
And the state of the governor.
The governor is overconfident. Despite his guard, I could have ended him with my bare hands. He would have deserved it. What makes you believe you need him?
I keep my friends close, and my enemies closer.
Bastienne has worked hard to appear neutral and allied to all factions in San Domingue. She can be more useful to the cause that way.
Curfews are strict. Punishments are harsher and more frequent.
She is also concerned that more pressure from the Maroons will cause ever more brutality from the governor.
All things require balance, Adewale. The storm brought you in, and you will leave on the tempest of opportunity and imagination.
Adewale's actions have always been forthright and swift, but this is a delicate land. With a power so rich and fierce, killing it will take subtlety and guile. 1,000 cuts, one concerted blow will have the Maroons trampled never to return. Adewale does not embody these virtues.
You help the ones you freed, but at what cost to the ones you can't?
A small price for independence. Any day now the Maroons will rise up. Then I will leave, not before. I've decided.
You are as arrogant as the French. Go now!
They both need time to understand what is needed next to help the cause of independence. While they do, Adewale can enact some of those 1,000 cuts. He frees those he can in the port, at sea, and in the plantations where they ply their back-breaking work to produce the sugarcane. Adewale was moulded on a plantation like this. He once told Edward of his experience.
I was born in Trinidad, a slave from my first breath.
Taken from his family and traded for labour.
But you worked the plantation, no?
A modest one, aye. It's a hard process making sugar. Dangerous. Must be why it fetches such a dear price. But let me tell you, brother, boiling sugar is near the hottest thing on earth. Just a touch on the skin will stick like birdlime and burn on, leaving a terrible scar.
He is reminded of this toil, his lost family, those scars he bears from both the boiling sugar and the scars self-inflicted, a ritual of his Yoruban heritage. Scars like tracks of tears that he often wept for his own freedom as a boy. Like the tears he weeps for those still enslaved. Those tears and that hatred and rage hardened him for his escape then, and his work as a liberator now. His obligation to return to the assassins is all but forgotten for now. This is his cause. It always has been. Returning to Bastienne, she has made a decision.
Your ambition still gives me pause, but I promised Augustin my help.
What's this?
Before this, in further investigations around the port, Ade would find out more about the research. Most notably,
Monsieur Godin requires, for reasons of scientific record-keeping, 3 literate slaves.
Augustin has forged the manifest for the research ship and planted 3 Maroons dedicated to the cause. They will pose as the literate slaves and take the findings of the scientists aboard. Ade switches the manifest and sees the 3 safely aboard and past the horizon, onwards along the equator of the globe. The success of their mission? To be heard another day. The Maroons have been given a new confidence since Adewale joined them. Their numbers have swelled and their attacks on the slaving populace have been ever grander. Bastienne is nervous of poking the bear further.
Ade, Augustin has learned of another slave ship to intercept. I beg you to reconsider.
She sees the increasing brutality from the governor and fears she may lose her power to help them.
The sooner Augustin's revolution comes, the sooner all slaves will live in peace as free people.
Gouverneur de Fayet threatens retaliation.
Despite her warning, Ade and the Maroons meet the slave ship and its escort head on. Down to its last escort ship, it starts to fire at the vessel it just before was assigned to protect. The governor's explicit orders: if attacked, the last ship will fire on the slave ship, making sure not one of them is rescued. The governor would rather lose them to the water than to the mountains.
Captain Ade, I think we must act fast.
They sink the remaining escort. Ade boards the sinking ship, frees the numbers he can. He emerges from the deep as so many meet their death beneath him. The Maroon and the rescued slaves bury those that would wash ashore on nearby Cumberland Bay.
Gouverneur de Fayet, I did not anticipate the extent of his heartlessness.
You tried to warn me. The governor will pay with his own life. My creed demands that I see to it.
Once the Fayet is gone, another tyrant will take his place.
His death must give this generation of warriors hope. They must not abandon the goal of independence.
And the death of these souls? Some barely knew life.
The Maroons and their allies decide to mourn this great loss for a while before they act. They return eventually to Port-au-Prince. And a time after that, Adewale returns to the Maroon hideout. Tempers have cooled, plans have been made.
The governor grows complacent, his guards lazy. They have already forgotten the terror they wrought.
He will strike at the governor, but this will be Adewale's final act in Saint-Domingue for now.
Once you have removed the Fayet, you will no longer be safe here.
Nor will the Maroons be if I stay.
It will bring me sadness to see you go.
We will meet again to celebrate Maroon independence.
You know well the grounds of the governor's residence. Choose your moment.
There is no better moment than now, as Governor Lafayette brutalizes his way to finding the Maroons.
I will personally find and kill every last one of you until I find my answer.
He must not. The Maroon fight will be long, to end the greed and the cruelty of people like Lafayette. But the governor's life will end now.
I have killed many men on principle, but never have I wanted one to suffer as much as you. To understand what it is to gasp and beg for your life.
But they're not even human. Without the discipline and guidance of their masters, they turn to rebellion, murder, like you.
I only wish that were true.
It has been 2 years since Adewale washed up on the shores of Saint-Domingue, and it would be many more years, with much more suffering and setbacks before the Maroons would achieve their goal. But they would achieve it. In 1794, 1,000 cuts led to the abolition of slavery in all French colonies. And after that, they would have to fight to keep it that way, amongst many other injustices. The assassins know the battle for freedom is a lifelong struggle and straddles many generations both in the past and will continue long into the future.
Have you come to say goodbye?
For now.
You will return to your brotherhood of assassins.
I will return, yes. But I feel a tide changing within me. I'm no longer young. I must devote my energy to those who struggle for freedom. I will use my conviction and my creed to defend them alongside anyone who will help me.
Adewale found a compass and a calling amongst the Brotherhood. He willingly did the work of the assassins at their instruction. But being immersed back amongst the chained reminded him of the struggle he has always raged against and must continue to do so. He is an assassin, but this is the cause he must also champion. Before he leaves, he delivers the parcel.
After all this time, you lost interest.
I have no one left to sell this to. I will keep it for memory.
Adewale did not uncover a Templar conspiracy here in Saint-Domingue. They did not have a foothold here. It's unknown why they did not collect the parcel, which is strange, as it was and would prove to be vitally important to them and be fought over in the future and has been protected and fought over in the past. Adewale did not know what he was handing over to Bastienne. This is a piece of Eden, known as the Precursor Box. A projector of knowledge that neither the assassins or the Templars were prepared for. To be continued. And if you want to watch that story right now, head over to Patreon, where patrons support this ongoing work and watch all my videos months in advance and ad-free. Click the link on the screen now or in the description. Also on the screen is another video to enjoy, or select your next story down below to watch next. Subscribe, hit like, and thank you to all the patrons on the screen now who make videos like this possible. I'm the Patient Wolf, and this has been the story of Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry.